Welcome to this special edition of the Inspiring Tech Leaders podcast in collaboration with Foundry. Today I'm joined by Romy Tuin, Global Director of Events Content at Foundry, and Mitch Islin, Head of IT and InfoSec at MOTORS, and also a member of the NextCIO Cohort at 2024. What a pleasure to be talking with you both today. I'm especially looking forward to this discussion because not only am I a judge for the NextCIO, but I've been working with Mitch this last year as his mentor. So let's start things off with you, Romy. Can you tell me more about the idea behind NextCIO and where the concept came from?
Yeah, absolutely. So NextCIO came from CIO 100s, really. We run CIO 100s all around the world, and the feedback has always been the same. People say thank you to their team. They said it couldn't be here without their team. And actually, that's really where so much talent lies that needs to be recognized. So we thought, well, hang on a minute, let's do something actually to recognize this talent that's coming through. So that's where NextCIO was born, as a way to recognize who the future CIOs are going to be. And then rather than just doing the recognition, we wanted to build more around the career development piece. And we thought the best way to do that is to turn it into program rather than events, and adding things like mentoring, workshops, community events, etc., to give that sort of extra layer of support. But I'd say it all came down to the CIOs really asking for that chance to recognize everyone within their teams and beyond.
Well, that's fantastic. And Mitch, I know I mentioned earlier that we've been working together this last year as part of the mentoring program, but can you tell the audience about your journey in IT and what led you to apply for the NextCIO Awards?
Absolutely, Dave. So it's a bit of an interesting one for me. I fell into IT. It was never meant to happen. It was a complete stopgap. So throughout my whole childhood, I actually wanted to go into the police force. And amazingly, my dream was to become an armed response officer, believe it or not. And back in 2008, I applied for the police force and the global recession hit. And what that meant was, unfortunately, they terminated all applications at that point because they couldn't basically employ anyone. Now, the rule with the police force is if your application gets terminated for any reason, even a global recession, you cannot reapply for 2 years. So there I was with thinking to myself, I have nothing to do for the next 2 years. My friends had gone off to university. I didn't, because I wanted to join the police and I needed to effectively decide what to do. So I had to have a think of, what do I actually like? What am I good at? And that's kind of how I fell into IT. So I went and got myself a few IT certifications just to try and make myself stand out from the crowd a little bit. And after about 6 months, I managed to get myself onto a service desk at a very, very large global insurance organization, where I spent just over 3 great years with them. And what I realized kind of at that time was I was very good at communication. I could see a lot of the time the bigger picture, and I was good at forward thinking. But what I learned quite quickly is when you're working at a global insurance company full of 50,000 people across the world, it's quite hard to move up through the ranks. So I moved on to a small fintech organization. And from there, that was really my break, I guess, into the world that I am in now. So after being there probably for about 8 to 10 months, I got promoted to become an IT manager, which was great for myself. And I had someone report into me for the first time. So I kind of learned a little bit about the art of management. And from there, I then kind of moved around in different management roles. My next one was really, really useful for me because I was managing a much larger team. And within that role, one of the great things was I was allowed to bring in an apprentice who I ended up mentoring, a bit like we've done, Dave. But whilst I was mentoring her, she actually went on to win the UK Apprentice of the Year. And that's when I realised I'm actually pretty good at this whole management thing. And from there, I kind of moved on to managing much, much larger estates at an international airport. And then it led me on to where I am today. And what I've always tried to do effectively is stay very, very hands-on with technology, but I've thoroughly enjoyed the whole leadership part and taking on roles and responsibilities. And obviously, as you're growing, you're always trying to learn. And I think whilst I was looking around and reading many different articles throughout the years, I've followed the CIO.com and CIO Online via LinkedIn, and that's what kind of led me to the NextCIO. And it was really interesting just seeing it pop up because I've been following the CIO 100 for many years, but I've never heard of an NextCIO. And when I saw it pop up, I thought, do you know what, this is a great opportunity.
Well, that's fantastic, and what an interesting career journey that you've been on. Mitch, what was the application and selection process like for you, and what has been the impact of the NextCIO program?
The application process for myself specifically, it was a long one. It took me about 6 weeks in total to do my application from start to finish. And when I've spoken to many of the other people who applied, I definitely know that mine was probably the longest. But let me explain a little bit of why mine was so long. So there were, from memory, there were about 7 questions on the application, and each question, I only did one question a day. So that in itself is just 1 week. I then left it about a week, then reviewed it again from scratch just to do it through fresh eyes, made some amendments, and then I started asking my wife to review it. Now, one of the things I remember it said on the NextCIO application is you don't just want it to be in tech talk, you want effectively people who are not in technology as well to be able to understand what you're actually talking, because obviously as part of being a CIO, you need to be a business enabler and you're not always talking to tech savvy people. So when my wife was reading over it, she gave me some really good pointers because she's not a technologist, and she said that, certain bits she didn't understand. So, I went back and forth a couple of times with her. Then I left it for about 2 weeks, the application. And then I actually reviewed it again because it was through complete fresh eyes. And then I submitted it. So my journey was probably about 6 weeks. But yeah, that's just because I was doing it really slowly, because the NextCIO Awards had quite a long time frame of where you could actually apply for. So I thought I might as well utilize it. After probably, I'd say it must have been maybe 6 to 8 weeks. It may have been a little bit longer after the application. I received an email. I remember I was sitting at work. I read it and I had to step away from my desk and walk to the other side of the office, which was completely empty, and kind of just give myself a massive fist pump in the air, because it had said effectively that you are a winner as part of the NextCIO. So that was really amazing for me. The impact, I would say, has been extraordinarily positive. And, a lot of the time, actually, I revert back to some of the questions that I originally answered, just as general knowledge, because I think as part of this process, when you're actually writing out all of the answers, you can get so much information which you've forgotten that you do. And it's a really great space to think. And then other people can actually review it for you and go, what, you've done something really good there, expand on it. And it's actually helped me think about things in a different way, and has really helped me just personally develop within myself. So that's been an interesting takeaway just from the application side for myself.
Well, that's really interesting, Mitch, that you've gone back and referenced back to those answers that you provided in your application. I think that's a really good practice to follow. Now, Romy, coming to you, what emerging trends in IT leadership did you notice amongst the 2024 cohort?
It's been such an interesting year, Dave. And before I jump into it, I just want to say the way that Mitch describes like the application process and the impact it had, it's like a dream to hear, because that's exactly what we would want people to look at the application process. Take your time, review it, give it to someone to read. It's like the perfect candidates. And I remember when we were going through all the applications, Mitch is standing out as being kind of so exact to what we were looking for within the candidate. So really cool to hear Mitch's side of it all. I'd say one key theme that's really starting to come out is this whole idea of like, why are we doing this? And I guess that's sort of twofold. One is the element of the kind of AI hype, the emerging tech piece, what it's doing for our way of working. I do find now there's quite a few conversations around why. When we build things to be sort of more efficient, if we're looking to be more tech savvy, if we're building these things like AI agents, for example, and everyone is doing that, what is really the knock-on effect of it? And is that what we want to do? Do we want to be this kind of overly efficient culture? Do we want to be so interchangeable with technology in the way that AI is starting to build this hype? So I find it really interesting to see people talk to one another around, are you seeing the effects of this as I'm seeing it? Do we want to kind of work and build technology in this way? And I think also that has a knock-on effect to some of the other key themes coming through around sustainability. Are we moving too fast? What is the climate impact? What is the impact of our teams and of our talent? So I'd say that's like a key thing that started to come through, is that the why element to it all. I don't know what you guys think if you're seeing that too, but I definitely see that coming more and more sort of front and center when I talk to people out there.
I absolutely agree with you, Romy. That certainly stood out in the applications that I reviewed during the process. So, Romy, what advice would you give to IT professionals who want to stand out and be part of future NextCIO cohorts?
Yeah, it's such a good question, Dave. My advice would be that it's now more important than ever to be yourself and to show who you are as a person. So like Mitch's example of his career journey, going into looking at the police constable piece and having that sort of change in gear and discovering your talents and what you're good at. I think it's really critical to show that as your personality, as your character. I think as more and more we are looking at the way we're working with technology, people are really interested to find interesting, cool, collaborative, exciting people. So I think if you want to be part of NextCIO, join these kind of programs, it's really important to show who you are, and highlight your personality and what your ambition is, as opposed to just focusing on your tech achievements and your career goals.
Oh, I completely agree with you, Romy. Now, Mitch, coming back to you, what was it like engaging with the other finalists and winners, and how has this experience shaped your professional network?
It's a great question, Dave. It's been a lot of fun engaging with them. We've got, for instance, a WhatsApp group now, and we don't communicate huge amounts on it, but it's kind of, you've got a support network to an extent that are always there. They've been through it with you, and an example was, there was I won't mention names here, but there was one of the award winners was actually sending a message probably a few months ago on it, just basically saying, I'm looking to move job. Has anyone got any advice on CVs? And, a few of us just responded. So you've got that like immediate support network where you're all at the same level and you can help each other out. And what I found also great is, you can be at other IT events, whether it's just general IT events, leadership conferences, and you bump into some of them and you just have really great, interesting chats with them just to find out how their journey's been, what they're up to, things that they're struggling with. So it's very good from a extended professional network point of view. And the other bit that I've really noticed, because it has helped shape my professional network, is it's allowed me to connect with a lot of the CIO 100 people. If I had just randomly added them on LinkedIn a couple of years ago, some of them may have accepted me, some of them may have just ignored my request, but it's kind of given that credibility. And I've just been able to connect with them, learn from them, because, I see their posts of what they're posting about. So it's kind of given a really great extension to my network, just to learn from the people where, eventually I want to be on the CIO 100. That's obviously what the whole NextCIO is for. That's the next step you want to take. So you're kind of seeing how they've progressed. You can speak to them if you want to. So I just think overall it really helps with credibility with your professional network.
Now, Mitch, looking back with the benefit of hindsight, is there anything you wish you'd known before participating?
I think ultimately just the opportunities that it actually opens. So obviously on the NextCIO website, it talked about some of the opportunities that you would get afterwards. And one of the things that really interested me is, I don't want to sound cheesy, David, because obviously I got the privilege of having you as my mentor, is the mentoring that you actually get. And I kind of expected, you might speak to the person maybe once or twice in the next year, but we've actually had catch-ups over the last 12 months, I would say every 4 to 6 weeks. I don't think we've ever really gone longer than about 6 weeks without having, a session on Teams for like 45 minutes to an hour. And I think that's just one of the things that I kind of wish I had known about before, because you kind of just think, oh, the judges, they stop after the judging, but it really does continue. The other thing I wish I had known, and it's kind of a bit of a jokey thing, is it's a massive invitation for salespeople on LinkedIn. Every time someone messages me on LinkedIn now, and I normally get a couple of salespeople each day, instead of them just saying, "Hi, Mitch," but now for the last probably since I was a winner of this award, so I don't know, it's what, 8 or 10 months now, I get messages from people and it's like, "Hi, Mitch, congratulations on the next CIO." And then they go into their sales pitch. So that's just something I wish I had known before, that the way that salespeople introduce themselves slightly changes.
Yeah, I know what you mean. You'll get a lot of that. I think the mentoring comment is also really powerful, though. I see it as a co-mentoring exercise because I've certainly got a lot out of the program too. And overall, I think it's been a really, really great experience. So, Romy, from your perspective, how does the NextCIO program help to shape the future of IT leadership?
It does so many things. I think the key thing is the connections piece and the peers piece, because you get to form a group of people that are at a very similar stage to you in your career, but in completely different sectors and part of the UK. So people that you may not actually get the chance to meet day to day or within your current circle, suddenly you get the chance to connect with those like-minded peers. And as you all grow and carry on, everyone else does that with you. So when you eventually do become a CIO or a CTO or whatever IT leader that may be, you already then have connections with fellow IT leaders because you've had this chance to connect at that point in your careers. So that chance to have that support network that Mitch was describing, cheerleaders to help engage if you did want to move roles or looking for different partners in something. It's all now so organic from the NextCIO program, as opposed to just that very casual, very shallow meetings that you might find elsewhere. So I think that's a really key thing to help shape what IT leadership looks like in terms of what they gain. I think also it's the chance to be less isolated. I think as more and more we see kind of leadership take on new challenges, their roles are continuously changing as well. I mean, there's so much conversation around the CIO, the CTO, the CITO, etc. But if we see leadership have each other's back, if that makes sense, and have that support, I think we'll see a real change in what leadership and tech looks like. So I think programs like this really help that. It changes in terms of that support piece that you get. And I think that's really important and really vital for the future of IT leadership.
I couldn't agree more, Romy. So, final question, Mitch. What advice would you give to IT professionals looking to follow in your footsteps with the NextCIO program?
So I would say just go for it, to be honest. If you're at that point in your career where you've been a head of for a number of years now, and you can kind of see a light at the end of the tunnel that within a few years you're hoping to become a CIO, just go for it. And worst case scenario is you don't win at the end of the day. And I think, I'll go back to one of my previous points that I raised is I revert back a lot to my previous answers for validation in terms of things that I've ultimately achieved and just the way that I've gone about things. And I think, that is to me a really positive takeaway more than anything, that not everyone can win the award, but even if you don't win, it doesn't matter. Go for it again the following year, keep going. And, ultimately just believe in yourself more than anything. And I would say anyone who wants to get to that CIO level, this is a great opportunity because you build a great network. You get opportunities in the end like this to go on podcasts, which without the next CIO, I wouldn't have got this opportunity. So definitely just go for it.
Great advice. Well, that's all we've got time for today, but it's been great talking with you both, and thank you once again for being part of the Inspiring Tech Leaders podcast.
Thank you very much, Dave. It's been a pleasure joining this podcast and sharing more about NextCIO and speaking with you, Mitch, also.
Thanks, Dave. It's been absolutely great getting to speak to yourself and Romy today.
If you've enjoyed today's episode of the Inspiring Tech Leaders podcast, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, stay curious, stay connected, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible in tech.